Dr. Kang Minho stared at the numbers on his computer screen. Something was wrong. The energy readings from his quantum experiment kept jumping between impossible values. He rubbed his tired eyes and looked again. The numbers stayed the same. "Hana, come look at this," he called to his research partner. Park Hana walked over from her workstation. She had been working on the machine's power systems for 3 days straight. Dark circles showed under her eyes, but she still moved with purpose. The whole team was tired. They had been pushing themselves hard for months. "What is it?" she asked, looking over his shoulder at the screen. "The dimensional readings. They don't make sense. Look here." Minho pointed at a graph that showed wild spikes of energy. "We're getting readings that suggest we're not just bending space. We might be breaking through it." Hana frowned. Their project was supposed to find new sources of clean energy for Earth. The planet was dying. Climate change had made huge areas unlivable. Wars over water and food happened every day. Billions of people lived in crowded cities while the rest of the world burned or flooded. "Are you saying we accidentally made a portal?" she asked. Before Minho could answer, Lee Jae-won burst into the lab. He was the youngest member of their team, but also the smartest when it came to theory. His hair was messy and his clothes looked like he had slept in them. "Did you see the news?" he asked, breathing hard. "North Korea just launched missiles at Japan. The Americans are mobilizing their fleet. This could be it. This could be the war that ends everything." The three scientists looked at each other. They all knew this day would come. Earth had too many problems and too few solutions. The rich lived in protected cities while the poor fought over scraps. Nations blamed each other instead of working together. The planet was heating up, the ice caps were melting, and people were angry and scared. "Maybe what we found isn't an accident," Minho said quietly. "Maybe it's exactly what we need." 2 hours later, Kim Dae-ho received a phone call that would change everything. He was the Secretary General of the United Nations, though these days the UN had little real power. Countries fought each other instead of listening to diplomats. But when Dr. Kang Minho called him with impossible claims about doorways to other dimensions, Kim knew he had to listen. "You're telling me you can open portals to other places?" Kim asked over the secure phone line. "Not just other places," Minho explained. "Other dimensions, whole universes that exist next to ours. We found one that seems stable. It has breathable air, livable planets, and no people." Kim looked out his office window at the smoke rising from the latest riots in New York. 3 billion people had lost their homes to rising seas and endless storms. The ones who were left fought over what remained. "How many people could you move?" Kim asked. "With enough power and time?" "Everyone, every human on Earth." That night, Kim made calls to world leaders. Most laughed at him. Some hung up, but a few listened. The ones who were smart enough to know that Earth was already dead. China's president agreed to help because half his country was underwater. Russia's leader said yes, because his people were starving after their crops failed again. The European Union supported the plan because they were tired of millions of refugees flooding their borders. Even the United States, which was fighting 3 different wars, agreed to work together. When the world is ending, old enemies can become partners. The project had a name: Phoenix. Like the bird that burns to ash and rises again, humanity would die on Earth and be reborn somewhere else. Minho's team worked day and night to build bigger portals. They needed machines the size of buildings to move millions of people. Hana designed power systems that used entire nuclear plants. Jaewon calculated how to keep the portals stable while huge crowds passed through. Other scientists joined. Them. Engineers, physicists, computer experts, and doctors all worked together. They built portal stations in 12 major cities around the world. Each one could move 100,000 people per day. The evacuation began on a Tuesday. People lined, up for miles, carrying whatever they could hold. Families said goodbye to their homes, their countries, and their world. Many cried. Some were angry, but most were hopeful. On the other side of the portals, they found a place that looked like Earth before humans changed it. Clean air, blue skies, and empty continents waiting for new cities. The advance teams had named it New Terra. For 3 months, the evacuation continued. Every day, more people walked through the shimmering doorways of light. Whole cities emptied. As their populations moved to the new world, farmers brought seeds and animals. Teachers brought books and knowledge. Artists brought music and stories. Kim Dae-ho was scheduled to be on the last transport. As the leader of the project, he wanted to make sure everyone else went first. He stood in the empty UN building, looking at the portraits of past leaders who had tried to unite humanity. Now humanity would be united by necessity in a new place. "Sir, it's time," Park Hana said. She had stayed behind to oversee the final shutdown of the portal systems. "Everyone else is through. You're the last one." Kim nodded and walked toward the portal. The machine hummed with power, creating a window into another universe. Through it, he could see New Terra's sky and the temporary shelters, where 8 billion humans were starting over. He stepped forward, but something felt wrong. The portal flickered. Warning lights flashed on Hana's control panels. "What's happening?" Kim asked. Hana's face went pale as she read the displays. "The quantum field is destabilizing. All the portals are connected. If one fails, they all fail. Can you fix it?" "Not from here. Someone needs to stay behind and manually shut down the system, or the dimensional rift will collapse violently. It could destroy both sides." Kim understood immediately. Someone had to sacrifice themselves to save humanity. He turned back toward the portal. "No," Hana said. "You're needed on the other side. I know these systems better than anyone. I can do it." Before Kim could argue, she pushed him through the portal. He tumbled into the grass on New Terra and rolled over to see the doorway closing behind him. Hana worked frantically at her controls as reality bent around her. The portal station shook and pieces of equipment exploded in showers of sparks. She managed to send one last message through the quantum communicator before the systems failed completely. "Tell them we made it. Tell them humanity survived." The portal collapsed with a flash of light that could be seen from space. The dimensional rift snapped shut like a rubber band, and the quantum energies that had held it open scattered across the planet. When the light faded, Earth was silent. Empty cities stood like monuments to a species that had vanished overnight. The only signs that humans had ever existed were the buildings they left behind and the slowly healing scars they had made on the planet. In other star systems, alien. Scientists detected the massive energy burst from Earth's solar system. They sent probe ships to investigate, but found only a dead world with no life signs. Whatever had lived there was gone. Kim Dae-ho stood on New Terra with 8 billion other humans, looking up at a sky that held different stars. They had escaped the death of their world, but at a cost. They were cut off forever from the universe they came from. Or so they thought. None of them knew that the dimensional rift had not truly closed. It had only moved, hidden in the space between spaces, waiting for the right moment to open again. Humanity had disappeared from the galaxy, but they would return. The first alien ship to reach Earth arrived 6 months after the Great Flash. Captain Thekmol of the Velkari Empire commanded a science vessel designed to study strange events in space. His crew had detected the massive energy burst from 3 star systems away. Thekmol was a tall, thin being with gray skin and large black eyes. His people had been exploring space for 10,000 years. They had seen many worlds and many species, but they had never seen anything like what they found. At Earth. "Scan the planet," he ordered his science officer. "Sir, I'm reading massive structures on the surface, but no life signs. The atmosphere is stable, but there are strange energy readings everywhere." Thekmol looked at the blue and green world on his main screen. It was beautiful, with white clouds and deep oceans. It looked like a perfect home for living beings, but their sensors showed it was completely empty. "Take us into orbit. Launch probe drones to the surface." The probe sent back images that confused the Velkari crew. They saw enormous cities with buildings reaching toward the sky. They saw roads and bridges and what looked like transportation systems. But everything was abandoned. No people walked the streets. No vehicles moved on the roads. "Sir?" The science officer said, "I'm detecting residual quantum energy signatures. These readings suggest advanced dimensional manipulation technology." Thekmol had never heard of any species that could manipulate dimensions. The Velkari were one of the most advanced races in the galaxy, and they could barely understand basic quantum mechanics. "Could this be a weapon?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. But whatever happened here, it affected the entire planet at once. Every city, every settlement, whatever lived here simply vanished." Thekmol made a decision that would shape galactic policy for hundreds of thousands of years. He declared Earth a quarantine zone. No ships were allowed to land on the surface. The planet was too dangerous to study closely. When he returned to the Velkari capital, he reported his findings to Emperor Thekmal, his older brother. The Emperor listened to the strange story with growing concern. "You're telling me an entire species just disappeared?" the Emperor asked. "Yes, sir. We found evidence that they called themselves humans. They had technology we don't understand. They built cities that would take us centuries to construct. And then they were gone in a single moment." The Emperor made Earth an official mystery. Velkari scientists were forbidden from landing there, but they were ordered to study it from orbit. The strange energy readings might be dangerous to other worlds. News of the empty world spread through the galaxy. The Nexari, a species of living crystal beings, sent their own ships to investigate. Their science leader, Vel Nash, was fascinated by the quantum signatures left behind. "These humans achieved something we thought was impossible," Vel Nash reported to the Nexari Council. "They opened doorways to other dimensions, but the energy required should have destroyed their entire solar system. The Nexari were older than the Velkari and understood physics better. They had been studying space and time for 50,000 years. But even they couldn't explain what had happened to Earth. Perhaps they ascended to a higher plane of existence, suggested another council member. Or perhaps they destroyed themselves with their own technology, Velnash replied. The Zephyrite, a species that shared a collective mind across billions of individuals, tried to scan Earth with their mental powers. But when they focused their thoughts on the planet, they felt only silence. Not the silence of death, but the silence of absence, as if the humans had never existed at all. Something broke the flow of reality around that world. The Zephyrite, Overmind declared, The humans touched forces beyond their understanding. Years passed, then decades. More species learned about Earth and its mystery. The Colton Federation, a military alliance of warrior races, sent battleships to study the planet's defenses. They found none. The humans had left no weapons, no shields, no protection for their world. They were weak, declared General Kolthos. They had pretty cities but no army. That's why they're gone. But even the Colton couldn't explain the energy readings or the perfect preservation of the empty cities. Earth's buildings showed no signs of damage or decay. The planet seemed frozen in time. 1,000 years after the disappearance, Earth had become famous throughout the galaxy. Some species worshipped it as a holy site where beings had transcended physical existence. Others feared it as a place where unknown weapons had been tested. The Velkari Empire established a permanent monitoring station on Earth's moon. They recorded every energy fluctuation, every change in the planet's magnetic field, every shift in the quantum background radiation. But nothing ever changed. Archaeological teams eventually received permission to study Earth's surface. They found libraries full of books in the human language. They discovered art galleries and museums that showed human history. They learned that humans had lived on Earth for hundreds of thousands of years before developing advanced technology. They were primitives until very recently, explained Dr. Zekmar, a Velkari archaeologist. Their oldest cities are only a few thousand years old, but in their final century, they advanced faster than any species in recorded galactic history. The archaeologists found evidence of wars, pollution, and climate change. They discovered that humans had been destroying their own planet before they vanished. Maybe they didn't transcend, Dr. Zekmar concluded. Maybe they just ran away. But running away didn't explain the dimensional energy signatures. It didn't explain how an entire species could vanish in a single moment without leaving any trace of their departure. 5,000 years after the disappearance, the Galactic Council officially classified humans as an extinct species. Earth was redesignated as a historical preserve. Tourist ships were allowed to visit the outer solar system, but landing on Earth remained forbidden. The humans became a legend. Parents told their children stories about the species that had reached too far and paid the ultimate price. Scientists used them as an example of what happened when technology advanced too quickly. The humans had no wisdom, teachers would say. They gained powerful tools, but lacked the knowledge to use them safely. But a few scientists disagreed. They believed the humans had achieved something remarkable. The dimensional technology they had developed was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. If the humans had somehow survived their disappearance, they might have become something incredible. What if they didn't die? Asked Dr. Velnash in a research paper that was largely ignored. What if they found a way to evolve beyond our understanding? Most academics laughed at such ideas. The humans were gone. They had been gone for millennia. Whatever they had been, they were part of history now. Earth continued to orbit its yellow star, empty and silent. The monitoring stations recorded the same data year after year. Nothing changed, nothing grew, nothing lived. The galaxy moved on. New species were discovered. New technologies were developed. Wars were fought, and peace treaties were signed. Trade. Routes were established between distant worlds. But Earth remained a mystery. The blue planet with the empty cities and the impossible energy readings. The home of a species that had touched the fabric of reality and then vanished without explanation. Ships still passed through the solar system occasionally. Traders and explorers would look at Earth through their viewports and wonder what had really happened there. Some claimed they could feel something strange about the space around the planet, as if reality was thinner there. "There's something still here," an old Nexari trader once said. "The humans left something behind, something we can't see or measure, but the monitoring stations never detected anything unusual." Earth remained dead and empty, a monument to a species that had briefly touched the stars and then disappeared into legend. The galaxy assumed the human story was over. They were wrong. Commander Yoon Siwoo stood on the observation deck of New Terra Central City and watched the sunset paint the sky in colors that Earth had never seen. 3 moons hung in the purple twilight, their light casting strange shadows across the sprawling metropolis below. 870,000 years had passed since humanity's exodus from Earth. The scared refugees who had stumbled through dimensional portals had become something new, something that would have amazed and terrified their ancestors. "The morning reports, Commander," said Dr. Oh Sung-min, approaching with a device that looked like flowing liquid held in the shape of a tablet. As the descendant of Lee Jae-won, one of the original portal creators, Sung-min had inherited both genius and responsibility. Siwoo didn't need to touch the device to read it. Information flowed directly into his mind through quantum neural links that all humans now possessed. Population, 12 billion across 47 worlds in this pocket dimension. Health status, perfect. Crime rate, 0 for the past 3,000 years. Resource conflicts, none. Humanity had grown beyond its original limitations. "The deep space monitoring stations are reporting anomalies again," Sungmin said. "The dimensional barriers around our pocket universe are showing stress fractures." Siwoo nodded. He had been expecting this news for decades. Their refuge between dimensions was not permanent. The universe they had found was smaller than normal, reality, and it was slowly collapsing under the weight of human civilization. "How long do we have?" he asked. "Our calculations suggest 50 years before the first barriers fail completely. After that, cascade failure. The entire pocket dimension will collapse within a century." Siwoo looked down at the city spread below. Them. Humans walked the streets, but they moved differently than their ancestors had. They glided rather than walked. Their bodies adapted to the strange physics of this place. Some flickered in and out of visibility as they practiced dimensional shifting. Others communicated through pure thought across vast distances. Children played in parks where the trees grew in impossible spirals and flowers bloomed with mathematical precision. These children had never known scarcity or conflict. They had been born into a world where technology and biology had merged into something wonderful. "Have you told Captain Nam about the timeline?" Siwoo asked. "She's leading an expedition to the dimensional border right now. She wants to see if we can expand the barriers instead of abandoning this place." Captain Nam Hyejin was humanity's best explorer. She had led missions to the edges of their pocket universe for 2 centuries, mapping the strange spaces where their reality touched the void between dimensions. Her body had been modified for deep space exploration, allowing her to survive in environments that would kill ordinary humans. Through the quantum communication network, Siwoo could sense Hyejin's thoughts as she floated in the darkness at the edge of existence. She was examining a crack in reality itself, a place where their universe leaked energy into the vast emptiness beyond. "The damage is spreading faster than we predicted," her voice echoed in his mind. "The barriers won't hold for 50 years, maybe 20. Siwoo felt a chill of concern ripple through the collective consciousness of humanity. Everyone was connected now, sharing thoughts and emotions across the neural network. When one person felt fear, everyone experienced it. When someone made a discovery, all of humanity learned it instantly. Then we need to implement the return protocol, Siwu said. The return protocol had been theoretical for hundreds of thousands of years. Dr. Kang Minho's original portal technology had been refined and perfected over the millennia. Modern humans could open doorways not just between dimensions, but between times and realities. They could step out of this pocket universe and back into the original cosmos they had fled. But they would not be returning as the same species that had left. Are we ready for that? Shungmin asked. We've changed so much. The outside universe won't recognize us as human. He was right. Humanity had evolved far beyond its original biological form. They had merged with their technology, becoming beings of both flesh and quantum energy. They could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, communicate through pure thought, and manipulate matter at the molecular level. Their bodies had adapted to the strange physics of the pocket dimension. They could survive in vacuum, process energy directly from stellar radiation, and regenerate from almost any injury. Their minds had expanded to encompass vast amounts of information and process thoughts at superhuman speeds. Most dramatically, they had transcended individual death. When a human's body failed, their consciousness would transfer to the quantum network, where it could inhabit a new form or exist as pure information. Death had become voluntary, and few chose it. We're not the same species that left Earth, Siwu admitted. But we're still human in the ways that matter. We still care about each other. We still want to explore and learn and grow. The other species in the original universe won't see it that way, Seung-min said. To them, we'll be gods or demons. Admiral Cho Young-soo materialized beside them, his form shifting from quantum energy into solid matter. As humanity's military leader, he had been preparing for the return for decades. But there were no armies to command anymore. Humans had evolved beyond violence, settling conflicts through shared consciousness and logical debate. The advanced scout ships are ready, he said. We can open microportals to the original universe and send small probes through. We need to see what's changed in the galaxy since we left. Do it, Siwu ordered. Within hours, tiny portals opened in hidden locations throughout human space. Microscopic probes, no larger than atoms, slipped through the dimensional barriers and emerged in the universe humanity had abandoned nearly 1 million years ago. The information they gathered was fascinating and troubling. Earth still existed, but it was empty and quarantined. The galaxy was full of new species that had never heard of humans except as ancient legends. Great empires had risen and fallen. Wars had been fought across thousands of star systems. But the technology level of galactic civilization was far below what humanity had achieved. They're still using primitive faster-than-light drives, reported the probe data. They've never developed dimensional manipulation. They don't even understand quantum consciousness transfer. More disturbing was the discovery that several species had tried to study Earth over the centuries. They had found human ruins and artifacts, but they had misunderstood everything. They believed humans had been a primitive species that had destroyed itself with dangerous experiments. They think we're extinct, Young-soo said with amusement. They've been using us as a cautionary tale for thousands of years. That might work in our favor, Siwu replied. If they believe we're dead, they won't be expecting us to return. The probe data continued to arrive over the following weeks. The galaxy was divided between several major powers: the Velkari Empire, the Nexari Collective, the Zephyrite Overmind, and the Koltan Federation. They maintained an uneasy balance of power, trading and occasionally fighting over resources and territory. None of them had achieved true dimensional technology. None of them had solved the problems of death, disease, or scarcity. They were still struggling with the same basic challenges that had driven humanity to flee Earth. We could help them, suggested Dr. Lim Yumi, humanity's leading philosopher. We could share our knowledge and lift them up to our level. Or we could conquer them without effort, Admiral Youngsu added. Our technology is so far advanced that they couldn't resist us even if they tried. That's not who we are, Siwu said firmly. We didn't evolve beyond our limitations just to become tyrants. But the question remained, what should humanity do when they returned? They could reveal themselves and offer to help the galaxy advance. They could remain hidden and secretly guide galactic development, or they could simply reclaim Earth and ignore the other species entirely. We need to see how they react to our presence, Siwu decided. Start with small contacts. Let them discover us gradually. Captain Hyojin volunteered to lead the first contact mission. She would take a small ship through the dimensional barriers and approach one of the galactic powers. Her ship would appear to use technology only slightly more advanced than what the aliens possessed. She would not reveal the true scope of human capabilities. Be careful, Siwu warned her. We don't know how they'll react to discovering that humans still exist. I understand, Hyojin replied. I'll approach them as explorers returning from a long journey, not as gods descending from heaven. But even that simple plan would prove more complicated than humanity expected. The galaxy had spent nearly 1,000,000 years believing that humans were extinct. The discovery that they were not only alive but had become something beyond imagination would shatter every assumption galactic civilization had made about life, death, and the nature of existence itself. Humanity was about to return to a universe that had forgotten them. But the universe would remember soon enough. Scientist Vel Nash floated in his observation chamber aboard the research station orbiting Jupiter. His crystalline body pulsed with soft blue light as he monitored the automated sensors that watched the outer solar system. For 300 years, he had studied the empty solar system where humans had once lived. The Kalani had volunteered to maintain the monitoring station because they lived longer than most species. Vel Nash had been here for most of his life, watching Earth's dead cities slowly crumble and recording the same empty readings year after year. He was thinking about requesting a transfer to a more interesting assignment when every alarm on the station began screaming at once. "Impossible," he whispered, his voice creating musical chimes in the thin atmosphere of his chamber. The sensors showed massive objects appearing around Jupiter, not approaching from deep space, but simply materializing. Out of nothing. One moment, the space around the gas giant was empty, and the next it contained structures the size of small moons. Vel Nash expanded his consciousness through the station's neural interface, accessing every sensor and scanner simultaneously. The readings made no sense. The objects were there, but they were also not there. They existed in normal space while somehow extending into dimensions that shouldn't exist. Station computer, run full spectrum analysis of the Jupiter anomalies. He commanded, "Analysis complete," the computer replied in its calm electronic voice. Objects are composed of unknown materials that exhibit impossible properties. They appear to be both solid matter and organized energy. They are generating quantum fields consistent with dimensional manipulation technology. Velnash felt a chill run through his crystalline structure. Dimensional manipulation was theoretical technology that only existed in the most advanced scientific papers. No known species had ever achieved it. Computer, send emergency alert to Kalani Homeworld and Velkari Monitoring Command. Priority Alpha. As the messages raced through hyperspace toward distant worlds, Velnash focused his attention on the mysterious structures. They were beautiful in a way that hurt to observe. Geometric patterns that shifted and changed while maintaining perfect mathematical harmony. Surfaces that reflected light in colors that didn't exist in normal physics. They're ships, he realized, but unlike any ships I've ever seen. Admiral Cho Young-soo stood on the bridge of the vessel humanity had designated as First Contact Ship 1. The name was deliberately simple and unthreatening, though the ship itself was anything but simple. It existed partially in normal space and partially in higher dimensions, allowing it to phase in and out of reality at will. Status report? He asked his crew, though he could access the information directly through their shared consciousness. All systems operating within normal parameters, reported Commander Park Sun-ho. The quantum camouflage is holding. To outside observers, we appear to be using advanced but comprehensible technology. And the dimensional anchor points? Stable. We can return to the pocket dimension instantly if necessary. Young-soo nodded and turned his attention to the alien monitoring station orbiting Jupiter. Through sensors that could perceive across multiple dimensions, he could see the Kalani scientist, frantically working at his instruments. He's terrified, observed Dr. Kim Ji-won, the ship's contact specialist. His bio readings suggest extreme stress. Should we withdraw? No, Young-soo replied. Fear is natural. We knew the first contact would be shocking for them. The question is whether he'll attack or try to communicate. They didn't have to wait long for an answer. The Kalani station suddenly lit up with active scanner beams, probing the human ships with every sensor array available. The beams harmlessly bounced off the dimensional shields, but Young-soo appreciated the scientist's thoroughness. He's brave, Commander Park observed. He's outnumbered and outgunned, but he's still trying to gather information. Open a communication channel, Young-soo ordered. Use their standard galactic communication protocols. Let's say hello. Velnash nearly fell out of his chair when the communication request appeared on his screens. The alien ships were trying to talk to him. His first instinct was to refuse and call for military backup, but his scientific curiosity won. This is Research Station Jupiter 7, he transmitted. Identify yourselves. The response came in perfect galactic standard, spoken with an accent he didn't recognize. Greetings, Station Jupiter 7. This is Admiral Young-soo of the Human Exploration Fleet. We request permission to approach and establish peaceful contact. Velnash stared at his communication screen for a full minute before responding. Human. The extinct species that had vanished from this very star system nearly 1,000,000 years ago. It was impossible. You claim to be human? He asked. We are human, the voice replied. We are the descendants of the people who once lived on the third planet of this system. We have returned from a long journey. That's impossible. Humans disappeared 870,000 years ago. They're extinct. We are very much alive, friend Velnash. We have been living in another place for a very long time. Now we have come home. The fact that they knew his name made Velnash's crystalline body flash with alarm. His name wasn't broadcasted on any channel. How did they know who he was? How do you know my name? He asked. We can read the quantum signatures of your thoughts. the human admiral replied casually. Your emotional state suggests fear and confusion, which is understandable. We mean you no harm. Reading thoughts through quantum signatures was technology that existed only in theoretical papers. The most advanced species in the galaxy couldn't do such things. Yet these humans spoke of it as if it were simple. Prove that you're human, Velnash demanded. Certainly. We'll transmit some information about our history and culture. The data package that arrived at Velnash's station was unlike anything he had ever received. It wasn't just information, but living knowledge that seemed to flow directly into his consciousness. He experienced human memories as if they were his own, saw Earth as it had been when humans lived there, understood their language and customs as if he had been born to them. When the transmission ended, Velnash found himself crying tears of liquid crystal. The beauty and complexity of human culture was overwhelming. These beings had created art, music, literature, and philosophy of incredible depth. They had loved and struggled and dreamed across thousands of years of history. You really are human, he whispered. We are, Admiral Youngsu confirmed, but we have changed during our long exile. We have learned many things and become more than we were. We hope this will not frighten you. Before Velnash could respond, his long-range sensors detected incoming ships. The Velkari Empire had received his emergency message and dispatched a battle fleet to investigate. 12 heavy warships were approaching at maximum speed, their weapons charging for combat. Admiral Youngsu, Velnash transmitted urgently, you need to leave immediately. The Velkari Empire is sending warships. They will attack first and ask questions later. Thank you for the warning, friend Velnash, but we are not afraid of their weapons. You don't understand. These are heavy battle cruisers with planet-killing weapons. You only have a few ships. Numbers are not important when you understand the true nature of reality, the human admiral replied. Watch and learn. The Velkari fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect battle formation. Admiral Kethmal commanded the force from his flagship, a massive vessel bristling with weapons that could destroy small moons. Unknown ships, you are in violation of Imperial quarantine protocols, he broadcasted. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. The human response was not what he expected. Greetings, Admiral Kethmal. We are humans returning to our home system. We wish to establish peaceful relations with your empire. Humans are extinct, Kethmal replied. You are imposters attempting to deceive us. You have 10 seconds to surrender. We understand your skepticism, Admiral Youngsu replied. Allow us to demonstrate our authenticity. What happened next would be remembered in galactic history as the first miracle of the returned. The human ships simply vanished. Not destroyed, not fleeing, but gone as if they had never existed. For a moment, both fleets thought the mysterious vessels had been destroyed. Then they reappeared directly in the middle of the Velkari formation. 12 human ships now floated between the Velkari. Warships, close enough to touch their hulls. They had somehow teleported through space without using any known technology. Impossible, Admiral Kethmal breathed. We have learned to step between the spaces in reality, Admiral Youngsu explained. Your weapons cannot harm us because we do not exist entirely in your dimension. We could destroy your fleet without effort, but we choose peace instead. To prove his point, one of the human ships reached out with invisible force and gently moved a Velkari battle cruiser to a new position. The massive warship, weighing millions of tons, was pushed aside like a toy. Your technology is beyond our understanding, Admiral Kethmal admitted. Yes, Youngsu agreed. But we remember when we were like you. We hope to help you grow as we have grown. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us to flourish. Velnash watched the impossible scene through his sensors. The humans had just demonstrated technology that violated everything he knew about physics. They had teleported through space, manipulated matter with. Fleet Admiral Bei Jiyung stood in the command center of the massive vessel that humans called Homecoming. The ship was 3 kilometers long and existed across 17 different dimensions simultaneously. To observers in normal space, it appeared to be made of flowing silver metal that occasionally became transparent, revealing impossible interior geometries. Through her enhanced consciousness, Jiyung could perceive Earth floating below them like a blue and green jewel. Home. After nearly 1,000,000 years, humanity had returned to the world of their birth. Planetary scans complete, reported Commander Shin Do-hyun. The automated restoration systems we left behind have done their work. The atmosphere is clean, the oceans are pure, and the ecosystems have fully recovered. Jiyung nodded. Before, fleeing through the dimensional portals, human scientists had planted self-replicating machines across Earth. These devices had spent hundreds of thousands of years cleaning the pollution, restoring the climate, and rebuilding the natural world. Earth was now more beautiful than it had been when humans lived there. "Any signs of alien colonization?" she asked. "None. The Velkari quarantine has been completely effective. No species has attempted to settle here." "Good. Signal the colony ships. Begin Phase 1 of the reoccupation." Captain Song Min-seo materialized on the bridge, her form shifting from quantum energy into solid matter. She commanded humanity's diplomatic corps, and she had been chosen to make formal contact with the galactic powers. "The Velkari Imperial Fleet is approaching," she reported. 50 ships led by Emperor Kethvar himself. He wants to speak with our leaders directly. And the others. The Nexari Collective has dispatched their High Council. The Zephyrite Overmind is sending a full node cluster. Even the Koltan Federation is coming, though they're bringing their entire battle fleet. Jiyung smiled. Humanity's return had certainly gotten the galaxy's attention. "Are you ready for this?" she asked Min-seo. "As ready as anyone can be for making first contact with species that think we've been dead for 1,000,000 years, Min-seo replied. The first meeting was scheduled to take place in Earth's orbit, neutral territory that belonged to no galactic power. Humanity had offered to host the conference aboard one of their ships, but the alien leaders were too nervous to board vessels they couldn't understand. Instead, they met in the ancient Velkari conference station that had been monitoring Earth for centuries. The station's meeting chamber was designed to accommodate different species, with environments suited to beings that breathed different atmospheres and lived in different gravity fields. Emperor Kethvar arrived first, his tall gray form imposing in ceremonial robes that marked his rank. He was followed by the Nexari delegation, living crystal beings that communicated through harmonic resonance. The Zephyrite node cluster appeared as a swirling cloud of interconnected minds, while the Koltan representatives were massive armored, beings that looked built for war. Captain Min-seo arrived last, and her entrance caused a stir throughout the chamber. She appeared to walk through the solid wall of the station, her body shifting between dimensions as she moved. When she solidified in the center of the room, she looked completely human. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. But there was something indefinably different about her. She moved with perfect grace, as if gravity had no hold on her. Her eyes held depths that seemed to contain entire universes. When she spoke, her words were heard not just by their ears, but directly in their minds. "Greetings," she said. "I am Captain Song Min Seo, representing the human collective. We thank you for agreeing to this meeting." Emperor Kethvar was the first to speak. "Our records indicate that humans disappeared from this system 870,000 years ago. Our scientists concluded that your species was extinct." "We were not extinct," Minseo replied. "We were elsewhere, learning and growing. Now we have returned to our home." "Where did you go?" asked Velnash, now representing the Nexari collective. "Our sensors detected dimensional energy signatures when you vanished, but we could never determine your destination." Minseo paused, considering how much to reveal. The truth: that humans had spent nearly 1,000,000 years evolving in a pocket dimension might be too much for them to accept. "We found a place between places," she said carefully. "A realm where we could survive and develop our capabilities. We have spent many years learning to understand the deeper structures of reality. Your technology appears to violate known physical laws," observed General Kolthos of the Federation. "How do you move through solid matter? How do you appear and disappear at will?" "We have learned that what you call physical laws are more like suggestions," Minseo replied. "Reality is far more flexible than most beings realize. With sufficient understanding, one can step between dimensions, manipulate matter at the quantum level, and exist in multiple states simultaneously." The alien leaders exchanged nervous glances. This casual discussion of impossible technologies was deeply disturbing. If the humans could truly do what they claimed, they possessed power beyond imagining. "What do you want from us?" Emperor Kethvar asked bluntly. "Only peace," Minseo replied. "We have no desire to conquer or rule. We simply wish to exist alongside the other species of the galaxy." "But you could conquer us easily," General Kolthos observed. "Your technology is so advanced that our weapons would be useless against you." "Power without wisdom is destructive," Minseo said. "We have learned to value cooperation over domination. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us to flourish." The Zephyrite Overmind spoke, its collective voice echoing in everyone's minds. "Your thoughts are partially shielded from us, but what we can sense suggests incredible complexity. Your consciousness exists on multiple levels simultaneously." "How is this possible?" Minseo smiled. "We have learned to expand our awareness beyond the limitations of individual minds. We share thoughts, memories, and experiences across our entire species. Yet we remain individuals with our own personalities and choices." To demonstrate, she opened her mind partially to the assembled delegates. For just a moment, they experienced what it was like to be connected to 12 billion other consciousnesses, to have access to the combined knowledge and wisdom of an entire species. The sensation was overwhelming. Emperor Kethvar staggered backward, his mind struggling to process the vastness of human collective consciousness. General Kolthos's armored form actually sparked as his neural implants overloaded. Even the crystal beings of the Nexari flickered. "With overcharged energy." "I apologize," Minseo said, quickly withdrawing the connection. "I forgot how intense that experience can be for minds that are not prepared for it." "You share the thoughts of 12 billion beings?" Velnash asked in amazement. "When we choose to," Minseo confirmed. "Privacy and individuality are still respected. But when we face challenges or make important decisions, we can access the wisdom of our entire species." "That's impossible," General Kolthos protested. "No communication system could handle that much information." "We do not use technology for this," Minseo explained. Our consciousness itself has evolved to exist on quantum levels. We are connected through the fabric of reality itself. The implications were staggering. If humans could truly share consciousness across their entire species, they would be incapable of deception or misunderstanding among themselves. They would act with perfect coordination and shared purpose. What happened to your individual identity? Asked the Zephyrite Overmind, which had some experience with collective consciousness. We chose to preserve it, Minseo replied. The collective enhances our individuality rather than replacing it. When billions of unique perspectives combine, the result is not uniformity, but incredible diversity of thought and experience. Emperor Kethvar sat down heavily in his chair. You have become something beyond our comprehension. How can we establish relations with beings who are so far advanced beyond us? The same way our ancestors established relations with you, Minseo said gently, through patience, understanding, and mutual respect. We were once much like you. We remember what it was like to be limited by individual consciousness and primitive technology. But you're not limited anymore, Velnash observed. We have transcended our old limitations, yes, but we have also gained new responsibilities. With great power comes the obligation to use it wisely and compassionately. General Kolthos leaned forward. Prove it. Show us that you truly mean us no harm. Minseo nodded. She reached out with her consciousness and connected to the computer systems of every ship in the area. For a moment, she had complete control over every weapon, every shield, every life support system. She could have destroyed the entire fleet with a thought. Instead, she sent each ship a detailed scan of its own systems, highlighting maintenance, issues, and offering suggestions for improvements. Then she withdrew her presence as gently as she had entered it. Your power core efficiency could be improved by 12% with minor adjustments, she told Emperor Kethvar. And General Kolthos, your flagship's armor plating has microscopic stress fractures that should be repaired before your next battle. The alien leaders sat in stunned silence. She had demonstrated the ability to take control of their most advanced technology as easily as breathing, but she had used that power only to help them. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Humans were alive. The extinct species that had vanished nearly 1,000,000 years ago had returned with technology that made the greatest galactic civilizations look primitive. Within days of the first contact meeting, every major government was in crisis. President Lim Chae-young of the Human Collective Council materialized in the Grand Assembly of the Galactic Senate without warning. One moment the chamber was filled with arguing alien delegates, and the next, a human woman stood in the center of the floor, having apparently walked through several layers of security and solid walls. The chamber fell silent. 3,000 representatives from across the galaxy stared at the impossible figure before them. She appeared completely human, but her presence filled the enormous space with an energy that made everyone's nerves tingle. "Honored delegates," she said, her voice somehow reaching every being in the chamber despite speaking in a normal tone. "I am President Lim Chae-young, speaking for humanity. We come before you to formally announce our return and our desire for peaceful coexistence." Senator Zektar of the Velkari delegation stood up, his voice shaking. "This is impossible. Our security systems registered no intrusion. How did you get past our defenses?" "Your defenses are designed to stop beings who exist entirely in your dimension," President Lim replied calmly. "We exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Your barriers cannot contain something that is partly outside your reality. The demonstration caused immediate panic in the chamber. If humans could appear anywhere at will, no location in the galaxy was secure. Leaders exchanged fearful glances, realizing that their most protected facilities meant nothing to beings who could step between dimensions. "What do you want from us?" demanded Chancellor Morden of the Nexari Collective. "Nothing that you are not willing to give," President Lim answered. "We seek only to re-establish our place in the galactic community. We have no desire to rule or conquer." "But you could," observed General Thakmos of the Koltan Federation. "Your technology is so advanced that you could dominate every species in the galaxy without effort." "Power without purpose is meaningless," President Lim replied. "We have evolved beyond the need for domination. We seek growth, knowledge, and the flourishing of all conscious life." To demonstrate her words, she reached out with her consciousness and gently touched the minds of every being in the chamber. For just an instant, each delegate experienced pure human thought, complex, compassionate, and utterly alien to their own mental processes. The Zephyrite delegation, accustomed to collective consciousness, recoiled in shock. Human group mind was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Where Zephyrite consciousness was uniform and shared, human collective thought was a symphony of billions of individual voices harmonizing together. "Your minds are—" The Zephyrite speaker struggled to find words. "Impossible. You maintain individual identity while sharing collective consciousness. This should not be possible. We have learned to transcend the limitations that divide individual and collective experience," President Lim explained. "We are many and one simultaneously." Senator Velnash of the Nexari stood up, his crystal form glowing with excitement. "This is miraculous. You have achieved something we thought was theoretically impossible. Would you be willing to share this knowledge?" "In time, perhaps," President Lim replied. "But such evolution cannot be rushed. It took us nearly 1,000,000 years to develop these capabilities. Your species must grow into readiness for such gifts." The admission that humans had spent nearly 1,000,000 years evolving their capabilities caused another wave of shock through the chamber. Most galactic species had achieved their current level of technology within a few thousand years and had remained relatively stable since then. "You have been developing your abilities for 1,000,000 years?" asked Chancellor Morden. "We have had much time to learn and grow," President Lim confirmed. "Time enough to move beyond the conflicts and limitations that still trouble your civilizations." "You speak as if you're superior to us," General Thakmos said angrily. "Not superior," President Lim corrected gently. "Older, more experienced. We remember when we faced the same challenges that trouble you now. War, scarcity, death, the loneliness of individual consciousness. We have found ways to transcend these limitations." "You claim to have conquered death?" Senator Zektar asked skeptically. "We have made it optional," President Lim replied. "Our consciousness can exist independently of our physical forms. When a body fails, the mind continues in new forms or as pure information within our collective network." The implications were staggering. If humans had truly conquered death, they were essentially immortal. Their knowledge and experience would continue to accumulate forever, making them progressively more powerful with each passing century. "This is why you disappeared," realized Chancellor Morden. "You didn't go extinct. You went somewhere safe to evolve. Our world was dying, and we were dying with it," President Lim confirmed. Rather than fight over the remnants, we chose to find a new path. That path led us to become what we are now. And now you've returned to claim your old territory, General Thakmos accused. We have returned to our birth world, yes, but we claim nothing beyond what was always ours. Earth belongs to humanity, but we have no desire to expand our territory into yours. How can we trust beings who could destroy us without effort? Demanded Senator Zektar. President Lim paused, considering the question. Then she did something that shocked every being in the chamber. She opened her mind completely, allowing every delegate to experience her thoughts and memories directly. They saw the truth of human evolution, the desperate flight from a dying Earth, the long years of growth and development in their hidden dimension, the gradual transcendence of their limitations. They felt her genuine desire for peace and cooperation. They experienced her species' collective commitment to helping rather than harming other life forms. When the mental contact ended, the chamber was silent for several minutes. Many delegates were weeping, overwhelmed by the depth of compassion and wisdom they had experienced. "You really do mean us no harm," whispered Chancellor Morden. "We mean you no harm," President Lim confirmed. "But we understand your fear. We remember when we were afraid of beings more powerful than ourselves." "What happens now?" asked the Zephyrite speaker. "Now you must decide how you wish to relate to us," President Lim replied. "Some of you will choose friendship and cooperation. Others will choose fear and hostility. We will respect whatever choice each species makes." Over the following weeks, the galaxy's response to humanity's return became clear. The reactions varied dramatically between different species and governments. The Nexari collective chose worship. They declared humans to be ascended beings deserving of reverence and began building temples in their honor. Nexari pilgrims traveled to Earth's solar system in massive numbers, hoping to glimpse the returned gods. The Zephyrite Overmind chose cautious cooperation. They recognized that human collective consciousness was far more advanced than their own, and sought to learn from it. Zephyrite scientists began working with human researchers on projects to improve their hive mind coordination. The Velkari Empire chose nervous diplomacy. Emperor Kethvar established formal relations with humanity while secretly ordering his military to develop weapons that might work against dimensional beings. The effort was futile, but it made the Velkari feel better about their situation. The Koltan Federation chose aggression. General Thakmos convinced his government that humans represented an existential threat that must be eliminated before they could establish themselves firmly in the galaxy. The Federation began mobilizing their entire military for a preemptive war. Smaller species throughout the galaxy chose various responses. Some sought human protection from their stronger neighbors. Others demanded that humans leave the galaxy entirely. A few attempted to hide, hoping that if they were ignored, they might avoid whatever changes were coming. President Lim watched. These developments from Earth, where the first human colonies were being established in the restored cities. She felt sadness for the fear and confusion her people's return had caused, but she also felt hope. The galaxy was changing, and change was always painful. But it was also necessary for growth. "Some of them will try to fight us," observed Admiral Young-Su, who had returned from his diplomatic missions. "Yes," President Lim agreed. "Fear makes beings do foolish things. We must be patient with them. And if they attack us? Then we will defend ourselves," she replied. "But we will use only the minimum force necessary. We are not here to conquer or punish. We are here to guide and protect. Even if they refuse our guidance?" "Especially then," President Lim said. The greatest responsibility of power is to use it wisely when others cannot or will not understand. We must be better than our fears and better than theirs. The galaxy was fracturing along new lines as species chose their responses to humanity's return. Old alliances were breaking down while new ones formed around attitudes toward the returned humans. The careful balance of power that had maintained galactic peace for thousands of years was collapsing. Emperor Kethvar stood in the deepest vault beneath the Velkari capital, staring at a weapon that had been forbidden for 10,000 years. The Void Render was a massive black sphere covered in crystalline conduits that pulsed with dark energy. It was the most destructive device ever created by galactic civilization. "Are you certain about this decision, Your Majesty?" asked General Velkoth, the Emperor's military advisor. "Once we activate the Void Render, there will be no going back. The humans are too dangerous to be allowed to establish themselves," Kethvar replied grimly. "Their technology makes our greatest achievements look like primitive tools. If we don't act now, they will eventually dominate the entire galaxy." "But they claim to come in peace," the general protested weakly. "They can afford to be peaceful." "When they are so powerful," the Emperor snapped. "But what happens when they decide peace is no longer convenient? No species should possess such overwhelming power over others." The Void Render had been built during the last great galactic war, designed to destroy entire star systems by tearing holes in the fabric of space itself. It had never been used because the weapon was too dangerous even for its creators. The energy required to operate it would drain the core of the galaxy, and the spatial damage might spread beyond the target area. But desperate times called for desperate measures. "Sir," interrupted Communications Officer Zal then, "we're receiving reports that the Koltan Federation has declared war on humanity. Their entire fleet is moving toward Earth's solar system." Emperor Kethvar smiled coldly. "Perfect. Let the Koltans test human defenses first. When they fail, we'll know exactly what we're dealing with. Meanwhile, in Earth's orbit, Commander John Taehyun received word of the Koltan fleet's approach through humanity's quantum communication network. As the leader of Earth's defense forces, he was responsible for protecting the first human colonies that had been established on their homeworld. "How many ships?" he asked Captain Jung Heejin, his tactical officer. "The entire Koltan war fleet," she replied. 3,000 vessels, including their flagship dreadnoughts. Their broadcasting demands for humanity's immediate surrender and evacuation from the galaxy. Their tactics? Primitive but effective. They plan to use overwhelming firepower to destroy Earth and all human settlements. They believe that if they can eliminate our foothold in this dimension, we'll be forced to retreat to wherever we came from. Taehyun nodded thoughtfully. The Koltans were aggressive but not particularly intelligent. They saw a problem and tried to solve it with brute force. Unfortunately for them, they had no understanding of what they were actually fighting. "Orders from the Council?" he asked. "President Lim wants minimal casualties," Heejin replied. "We're to demonstrate our capabilities without unnecessary destruction of life." "Understood. Signal the fleet. Prepare for defensive action." The human defense force consisted of only 12 ships, but each vessel existed partially outside normal space-time. They could phase in and out of reality at will, making them effectively impossible to target with conventional weapons. Captain Nam Hyejin commanded the lead ship, a sleek vessel that looked like a crystal sculpture come to life. Through her enhanced awareness, she could perceive the approaching Koltan fleet across multiple dimensions simultaneously. "They're brave," she observed to her crew. "Stupid, but brave." The Koltan fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect battle formation. 3,000 warships spread across space like a metal cloud, their weapons charging for simultaneous bombardment. General Thakmos commanded from his flagship, a massive vessel armed with planet-cracking weaponry. "Target the human ships and Earth's major cities," he ordered. "We end this threat before it can spread." The barrage that followed was devastating. Enough firepower to destroy small moons lanced toward the human vessels and Earth itself. Energy beams that could vaporize asteroids filled space with deadly light. Every shot passed harmlessly through empty space. The human ships had phased into higher dimensions, existing in the same location, but in a reality that Coltan weapons couldn't touch. To the aliens, it appeared that their targets had simply become ghosts. "Impossible!" General Thakmos roared. "No defense can stop that much firepower!" "We are not defending," Captain Hyagin's voice echoed directly in his mind. "We are, simply not in the same dimension as your weapons. Your attacks cannot harm what does not exist in your reality." To demonstrate, the human ships reappeared directly among the Coltan fleet. 12 vessels materialized between thousands of enemy ships, close enough to touch their hulls. "Now we will show you true power," Hyejin continued. What happened next defied every law of physics the Coltans understood. The human ships reached out with invisible force and gently lifted the massive Coltan vessels, moving them like toys. 3,000 warships found themselves helplessly repositioned in space, their engines useless against the force that held them. "We could crush your ships like insects," Hyejin explained, "but we choose mercy instead. Return to your homes and tell your people what you have seen. Humanity has no quarrel with the Coltan Federation, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." General Thakmos was speechless. His entire fleet had been rendered helpless in moments. The humans hadn't even used weapons. They had simply demonstrated that Coltan military power was meaningless against beings who could manipulate reality itself. "This isn't over," he transmitted weakly. "For your sake, I hope it is," Hyejin replied. The Coltan fleet departed in confusion and defeat, their pride shattered by the casual demonstration of human superiority. But their failure only convinced Emperor Kethvar that more extreme measures were necessary. "Activate the Void Render," he ordered. Deep beneath the Velkari capital, ancient machines hummed to life. The Void Render began drawing power from the galactic core itself, channeling energies that could tear holes in space-time. The weapon was designed to destroy not just planets or fleets, but entire regions of space, collapsing them into nothingness. The target was Earth's solar system. The plan was to erase it from existence, forcing humanity to retreat to whatever dimension they had come from. Commander Tae-hyun felt the weapon charging through sensors that could perceive across space and time. The Void Render was gathering energy from the future, preparing to unleash destruction backward through time to ensure its target could never escape. "Sir," Captain Jung reported urgently, "we're detecting massive temporal distortions from the galactic core. Someone is charging a weapon that operates across multiple timelines. Can we defend against it? Not with conventional shields. This weapon is designed to erase its target from history itself. If it fires successfully, Earth will never have existed." Tae-hyun felt a chill of concern through the human collective consciousness. For the first time since their return, humanity faced a genuine threat. The Void Render couldn't be blocked or deflected because it attacked the very foundation of reality. "Sir," Jung continued, "we're receiving a transmission from the Velkari Emperor. He's demanding our immediate withdrawal from the galaxy. If we don't comply, he'll use the weapon. How long until it's fully charged?" 18 hours. Taehyun made a decision that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of human capabilities. Instead of retreating or negotiating, he chose to demonstrate why such weapons should never be used against beings who understood the true nature of time and space. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "Prepare for temporal intervention." What followed was beyond the comprehension of any galactic species. Human ships didn't just phase through space, they phased through time itself. 12 vessels stepped backward through causality to the moment when the Velkari first decided to build the Void. Render 10,000 years earlier, the human intervention was subtle but devastating. They didn't destroy the weapon or attack its creators. Instead, they made tiny changes to the mathematical equations that guided its construction. A few altered numbers in the original blueprints, small modifications to the focusing crystals, minor adjustments to the power routing systems. When the Velkari scientists of the past built their ultimate weapon, they unknowingly created something different than intended. The Void Render still appeared to function normally, but its targeting systems had been secretly modified to recognize a specific quantum signature, the signature of anyone who would use it to attack Earth. In the present, Emperor Kethvar gave the order to fire. The Void Render activated, drawing massive amounts of energy from across space and time. The weapon reached through multiple dimensions to target Earth for complete erasure from history. But the modified targeting system recognized the quantum signature of its operator. Instead of firing at Earth, the weapon locked onto Emperor Kethvar, himself and the facility that housed it. The erasure was instant and complete. The Void Render, its control facility, and everyone who had authorized its use simply ceased to exist. They weren't destroyed. They were removed from history itself, as if they had never been born. Across the galaxy, beings suddenly forgot that the Void Render had ever existed. The weapon was gone from all records, all memories, all traces of its creation. Only humanity remembered it, because they existed partially outside normal time and were immune to temporal erasure. 5 years had passed since the Void Render incident, and the galaxy was slowly learning to live with the reality of humanity's return. Director An Ji-won stood in her office on Earth, looking out at a city that had been rebuilt using both human, technology, and alien engineering principles. The result was beautiful. Spires that grew like living trees, bridges that floated without visible support, and parks where earth plants grew alongside specimens from dozens of other worlds. "The morning reports, Director," said her assistant, Dr. Kang Menjae, materializing beside her desk. As one of the new generation of humans born after the return, he existed even more comfortably across multiple dimensions than his elders. "Summarize." "The important points," she requested. "The Nexari Collective has formally requested assistance with their crystal matrix degradation problem. The Zephyrite Overmind wants to establish joint research colonies. 3 minor species have applied for protection under the Human Guidance Protocols, and the Velkari Empire has submitted their annual petition to join the Unified Worlds Project." Annie Ji-won nodded thoughtfully. The galaxy had changed dramatically since humanity's return, but the changes had been gradual and carefully managed. Rather than imposing their will through force, humans had chosen to lead by example and offer help to those who asked for it. "Approve the Nexari Assistance Program," she decided. "Their crystal matrices are failing because they're trying to force growth instead of allowing natural evolution. Send a team to show them sustainable cultivation techniques." And the Zephyrite? Approve the joint colonies, but limit them to 5 systems initially. Their hive mind is still adapting to individual consciousness concepts. Too much exposure to human collective awareness might overwhelm their neural networks. The protection requests? Standard evaluation protocol. If they're genuinely threatened by aggressive neighbors and willing to commit to peaceful development, we'll provide defense umbrellas. And the Velkari petition? And Ji-Wan paused at that one. The Velkari Empire had been requesting full integration into humanity's unified worlds project for 3 years, ever since their current emperor had witnessed human-guided colonies prospering, while traditional Velkari worlds struggled with resource depletion and social conflict. "Not yet," she said finally. "Their society is still too hierarchical and militaristic. They need to demonstrate genuine commitment to cooperative governance before we can consider full integration." The Unified Worlds Project was humanity's most ambitious undertaking. Rather than creating an empire or federation, humans were slowly building a network of worlds where different species could develop their full potential. Each member world retained its independence and cultural identity while benefiting from shared knowledge, resources, and protection. The key was patience. Humanity had learned during their long exile that forced evolution led to instability and conflict. True growth had to come from within, guided by wisdom but never imposed by force. "Director," Minji continued, "Ambassador Shin Minji is requesting permission to establish the new learning center on Kepler Station. She believes it's time to begin the next phase of galactic education." And Ji-Wan smiled. Minji had been working on this project for 2 years, carefully building relationships with educators from dozens of species. The proposed learning center would be the first institution where young beings from different worlds could study together, learning not just facts and skills, but how to think beyond the limitations of their birth cultures. "Approved," she said, "but tell her to start with only 50 students from 10 species. We need to prove the concept works before scaling up." A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message, and Ji-Wan opened her consciousness to receive it and found herself connected to Captain Nam Hyejin, who was currently exploring the far edges of the galaxy. "Director." Hyejin's thoughts came through clearly despite the vast distance. "We've discovered something you need to see. There's another pocket dimension, similar to the one where we evolved. But this one contains a different species that went through their own transcendence event." The news was startling. Humans had assumed they were unique in their dimensional evolution, but apparently other species had found similar paths to advancement. "Are they friendly?" and Ji-Wan asked. "Unknown. They're aware of us but haven't made contact yet. I think they're as surprised to find us as we are to find them. Should I attempt communication? Proceed carefully. If they've evolved as we have, they'll have capabilities similar to ours. First contact protocols, but be prepared for anything." The discovery of another transcended species was both exciting and concerning. It suggested that dimensional evolution might be a natural step for sufficiently advanced civilizations, which was encouraging. But it also meant that humanity might not be as unique as they had believed. While An Ji-Wan dealt with this new development, Ambassador Shin Minji was aboard Kepler Station, meeting with representatives from the various species that had requested to join the Learning Center project. The station itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Velkari structural design provided the basic framework. Nexari crystal technology handled power and communication systems. Zephyrite biotechnology managed life support, and human dimensional manipulation allowed the entire structure to exist in a stable fold of space-time. "The children will live together in mixed groups," Minji explained to the assembled delegates. Human children will room with Nexari younglings, Velkari adolescents, and Zephyrite nodes. They'll learn each other's languages, customs, and ways of thinking. "Is this safe?" asked Chancellor Vel Nash, representing the Nexari collective. "Our young ones are very impressionable. Exposure to too many different thought patterns might confuse their development." "Confusion is often the first step toward wisdom," Minji replied gently. "Children are naturally adaptable. They'll learn to appreciate diversity rather than fear it." "And what will they study?" inquired General Moulton, the new Colton representative. The Federation had undergone significant changes since their humiliating defeat, becoming much more diplomatically minded. "Everything," Minji said. "History, science, art, philosophy, and most importantly, how to think beyond the assumptions of their birth cultures. They'll learn that there are many ways to see the universe and that cooperation produces better results than competition." The first group of students arrived the following week. 50 young beings from 10 different species, ranging in age from the equivalent of 8 to 16 years old. They were nervous, excited, curious, and completely unprepared for what they would learn. The human teacher assigned to guide them was Dr. Park Chaewon, a specialist in cross-species education who had spent decades developing techniques for helping different forms of consciousness understand each other. "Welcome," she said to the assembled group, her words automatically translated into each species' native language. "You are about to begin a journey that will change not just how you think, but how you understand thinking itself." The first lesson was simple but profound. Each student was asked to describe the color red using only their species' concepts and language. The results were illuminating. The human child, Kang Soo-min, described red as warm and energetic, relating it to fire and blood and strong emotions. The Nexari youngling resonated at a frequency that translated as angular harmony with overtones of movement, understanding color as a form of music. The Velkari adolescent defined red as the wavelength that indicates danger or territorial marking, approaching it from a survival perspective. The Zephyrite node experienced red as the collective memory of sunset across 1,000 worlds, sharing the accumulated experiences of its hive mind. "Now," Dr. Park said, "I want you to try describing red using each other's concepts. Soomin, describe red as music. Velkani, describe it as an emotion. Zekmore, relate it to wavelength measurements." The exercise was challenging but enlightening. As the students struggled to translate their perceptions into alien frameworks, they began to understand that reality could be experienced in fundamentally different ways. "Each of your species sees the universe through different mental filters," Dr. Park explained. "Humans see through emotion and story. Nexari see through harmony and resonance. Velkari see through hierarchy and function. Zephyrites see through collective memory and shared experience. None of these perspectives is wrong, but none is complete by itself." Over the following months, the students learned to think in multiple frameworks simultaneously. They discovered that problems which seemed impossible from one perspective became solvable when approached from another angle. The Nexari youngling learned to appreciate individual emotion, while the human child learned to sense harmonic patterns in seemingly chaotic situations. The Velkari adolescent discovered the value of collective decision-making, while the Zephyrite node learned to value individual creativity. Most importantly, they learned that differences weren't obstacles to overcome, but resources to be treasured. Each species' unique perspective added value to the group's problem-solving capabilities. The success of the Learning Center led to requests for similar institutions throughout the galaxy. Within 3 years, there were dozens of mixed